Marvelous hello, friends and loved ones! How are you today? So, look, normally around this time of year, I just do a traditional top 10 games of whatever year video. But this year, I decided I wanted to try something just a little bit different. So, welcome to the first annual Straime Awards! It's like the Game Awards. Only with my name in it. Cool. My rules for what games are eligible for awards or not are pretty simple. First, it has to be a game that had an official release, either digital or physical, in 2021. But it also has to be my first time playing the game or experiencing whatever new things it has to offer. And lastly, I'm still excluding all early access games. They'll become eligible once they officially release. So if you were hoping to see the sexy space shooter Subverse, better luck some other year. Alright, so let me go ahead and explain how these awards work. I've created 10 completely arbitrary categories to present awards in, and yes, these will change from year to year. Every category will have 2 runner-ups and 1 distinct winner. Then, the 10 winners will be the nominees for my Game of the Year, which will also have 2 runner-ups. Does this just seem like a top 10 with a lot of unnecessary extra steps? Will certain games clearly seem like they should have been placed in other categories, but I specifically rigged these awards so that my top 10 games win? Well, yes, that's kind of the entire point. I'm also definitely going to be poking fun at a lot of the games I talk about today, but just remember that they're all here because I do like them, so don't get mad if I say something in jest regarding your Game of the Year. As always, if a game isn't in today's ceremony, it simply means I didn't like it as much as you, or much more likely, I just didn't play it. Alright, with all that out of the way, let's hear from today's sponsor, Monster Energy Pipeline Punch. Monster Energy. They didn't pay me to say this. On with the show! Good morning, tippity-top keckers. Let's get this bread. A mantra that has inspired many of us to work our darndest in order to get money that can be exchanged for goods and services. That's why our first category is the Get This Bread Award for Best Job Simulator. Our second runner-up goes to Shovel Knight Pocket Dungeon, because it's about, doing your job as a Shovel Knight. Okay, look, this was a really late year game and I just wanted to talk about it and I kinda had an opening in this category. Shovel Knight Pocket Dungeon is fun, engaging, challenging, and it's got Scrap Knight in it, who is just awesome. Our first runner-up is The Good Life, the idyllic English countryside life sim / wacky murder mystery brought to us by Swery. Like most Swery games, there's a lot that I like here, from the stylized character designs to combining a life sim with this weird murder mystery, to riding around at fast speeds on a sheep. But unfortunately, it suffers from things like grindy, repetitive fetch quests, a pretty bad crafting system, and a map that's just way too big. But still, living life as an investigative photographer and watching the pennies roll in from posting content online it actually hits a little close to home, honestly. And the winner for Best Job Simulator goes to Lost Judgment. We once again find ourselves on another wacky adventure with everyone's favorite lawyer detective in uncomfortable jeans, Takayuki Yagami. Tail suspects, beat up street punks, and run around the streets of Kamurocho yet again. Look, I love the Yakuza series, and this spin-off has done a fine job standing on its own. God, though, those pants just look so uncomfortable. After work, must come play, and after getting all that bread, I just want to kick back and eat some of it. So our next award is the Chillax to the Max Award for Best Vacation Game, where our characters go on a nice relaxing trip and just enjoy themselves for a little while. Our second runner-up goes to Honey Pop 2 Double Date, which takes us to the tropical island paradise of Ina de Puna for more Match 3 puzzle dating sim shenanigans. The mechanics have definitely improved and it's still pretty fun. Beaches, shopping, and all the threesomes you can handle. What's not to love? Our first runner-up goes to Toem, a charming little photographic adventure where you play as this thing, and go around helping people and taking photos of your journey. The art style is darling, the writing is cute, and the mechanics are fun. Easily a trip well worth taking. And the winner for Best Vacation Game goes to Persona 5 Strikers. Not only do I think Strikers stands head and shoulders above the other Persona spin-offs in terms of story, gameplay, and consistency of quality to its main game, but it was a genuinely great road trip story. I loved getting to see all the other cities in Japan. During their brief visit to Sendai, I found myself saying, I'd like to go there, to the point where this year I actually had an interview for a teaching job in Japan, and when they asked me where I'd like to be stationed, I said Sendai, and that is the mark of a truly great vacation title. Also, come on, Strikers had Zenkichi, who is like one of the best Persona characters ever. Let's take a quick break from our main categories and give out this year's Best New Waifu of 2021 award. And the nominees are Lady Dimitrescu from Resident Evil 8, Penny from FAP CEO, Ahina from Harvest Moon One World, Aidan from Shin Megami Tensei 5, Shoka from Neo The World Ends With You, Rivet from Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, Alice Hiragi from Persona 5 Strikers, and Polly from Honey Pop 2 Double Date. And the winner is all of them! Now, on with the show. Sometimes you've gotta roll up your sleeves and get dirty. There are few things more rewarding than a hard day's work on the farm. In video games, anyway. In real life, I struggle to keep just about any plants alive. But there's something immensely satisfying about farming in games. Having a productive day, bringing in those crops, wooing the character you're most smitten by, and that's why our next award is the Cream of the Crops Award for Best Farming Game. The second runner-up goes to a later entry in the year, Monster Rancher 1 and 2 DX. Now, the emphasis in this game isn't on farming, but you are still a rancher, and that feeling of a productive month raising your monster to be the best it can be is equally satisfying. I can't stress how much Monster Rancher 2 meant to me as a kid, and I never expected these Switch versions to actually get localized. But here we are, and it's as fantastic as ever. This was also my first experience playing Monster Rancher 1, so I had a blast seeing what I missed out on back then. Our first runner-up is Story of Seasons, Pioneers of Olive Town. While not doing a whole lot to really evolve the genre, it's pretty difficult to have an award category like this and not bring up Story of Seasons. Olive Town is definitely a good farm story game, maybe even a great one, but overall, it did little to really innovate and feel like something I wanted to come back to regularly. The buffalo are super cute though, I named all of mine after different forms of bread. And the winner for Best Farming Game is a bit of a misnomer, actually. Harvest Moon One World definitely isn't the best farming game. It's loaded with problems, weird graphical issues, a giant, mostly empty world, and yet, unlike Pioneers of Olive Town, I found myself regularly coming back to this one. There was something charming about the mini storylines in each region, ridiculous as they were. The girl I dated is insanely cute. I can ride around on a reindeer, and while it's far from perfect, it left a lasting impression. I know it might seem insane to put a Natsume Harvest Moon above a proper Story of Seasons entry, but let me put it this way. Harvest Moon One World gave me a flawed but fairly unique experience into which I kept being pulled back. Story of Seasons Pioneers of Olive Town made me ask why I wasn't just playing Stardew Valley instead. Sometimes a game looks so good that you're willing to pay for it before it even exists. I love putting my money where my mouth is and supporting smaller indie titles on Kickstarter or various other crowdfunding platforms. And hey, a few games I backed a ways back got their official releases in 2021, which is why I'm happy to present the Shut Up and Take My Money Award for Best Crowdfunded Game. Our second runner-up goes to Henchman Story, a delightfully wacky comic book-style visual novel about what life is like in the day-to-day grind of being a supervillain's grunt. The writing and voice acting are both solid, and there's a lot of cleverness in figuring out how to best interact with different characters. Definitely worth a playthrough or two, especially when you realize just how much your decisions truly affect where the dialogue takes you. Our first runner-up is Rainbow Billy, Curse of the Leviathan. This delightful blend of Pokemon, Paper Mario, and Cuphead tells a story about love and friendship so uplifting that you might be forgiven for thinking the game is going to take some dark psychological horror turn, but No, it's just a wholesome and enjoyable experience. Colorful, vibrant, and fun. Just the way I like it. And my winner for Best Crowdfunded Game has so many asterisks hanging off of it, but I don't care. In 2017, I played an absolutely delightful and hysterical little visual novel called Shark Dating Simulator XL. And after years of new ideas, character redesigns, mini-concept games, and more than one Twitter DM from me to the writer and artist of the game, politely and eloquently requesting more shark girl dating opportunities in my life, did the game launch an Indiegogo campaign, and even released a handful of new episodes toying around with new mechanics such as inventory puzzle solving. The writing still has me laughing my butt off, and the sharks are as sexy as ever. With future episodes planned, including one featuring a shark girl created by a certain charming, handsome, and charismatic YouTuber, wink wink, this definitely isn't the only time I'll be talking about this game, but for right now, I'm happy to bestow this award upon it. Before we continue with our awards, I'd like to take a moment to be serious. Let's honor some of the games that couldn't make this list, because sadly they were delayed from 2021 to 2022. I look forward to maybe seeing them pop up next year. On with the show! I love 3D platformers. It's still one of my favorite genres of all time, so it makes perfect sense that I played enough of them in 2021 that they deserve their own category. Without further ado, here's the not-so-rough transition into 3D award for Best 3D Platformer. The second runner-up is Balan Wonderworld. The internet's punching bag this year may not have been the best 3D platformer, but it still had a lot of charm, clever ideas, and visual flair. It just needed to weave more of its own plot into the game, ditch the Balan bouts, and take a moment to remember that controllers typically have more than one button for a good reason. Our first runner-up is actually going to two games, and that's Tori 3D and Tori 2. These fast-paced, semi-horror themed games about a tiny bird with sunglasses trying to get back its ice cream from the Grim Reaper. I mean, really, that's all you need to know. You can buy both of these games for less than the cost of a 4-piece McNugget, so you may as well give them a try. And the winner for Best 3D Platformer is Bluefire. So often, platformers are set in bright, cartoony worlds full of color and bouncy music, and while I love that, sometimes a bit of subversion can be a massive breath of fresh air. This darker, atmospheric, fast-paced, hacky-slashy, jumpy platformer was absolutely a standout title for me. The game offers both an incredible open hub world to explore and challenging fast-paced platforming stages that really invoke that amazing feeling of, okay, this time. Also, the protagonist is cute as a dang button, so much so that I even bought a plushie of him. And I genuinely believe that Bluefire is one of the most underappreciated titles of 2021. Definitely deserving of my title for Best 3D Platformer. A small goal of mine on this channel has been to eventually cover a game starting with every letter of the alphabet, so that is something I keep in mind when I look at all the games I've bought throughout any given year. And a weirdly high amount of games I played in 2021 started with the letter W. So like, here's the wonderful, wacky Wexperience Award for Best Game I Played in 2021. That started with the letter W. Our second runner-up goes to one of the very first games I played this year, a weird little indie title called Wood Salt. When the world has been destroyed and you've been cryogenically frozen, what will you do when society has already rebuilt itself pretty nicely by the time you're thawed out? Make life better in this far-off space colony, or aim to return to and rebuild what was lost? The game is not perfect, but I definitely enjoyed the Social Link-esque day-to-day mechanics that this title brought to the table. Our first runner-up is World's End Club, a fairly interesting take on the kids trapped in a deadly game genre. This is the story of a bunch of children, all designed by one of the Pokemon artists, trekking across a ruined Japan in search of answers. The decision to make it a platformer felt a bit odd in places, but for the most part it's an endearing cast, and the game has some okay mysteries, as one would expect from the minds behind Danganronpa. And the winner is Wario, of course! Just last month I did a video highlighting my favorite game in the series that I was compelled to come back to because of this game. I love this series, and this entry on the Switch was tons of fun with more fast-paced games and hilarious little story beats. Man, you'd almost think this entire category was concocted just so I could hand out an award to WarioWare Get It Together. But that would be downright nutty, wouldn't it? Our next side award goes to the craziest crossover of 2021. And the nominees are Suezo from Monster Rancher in Super Monkey Ball, Sonic the Hedgehog officially becoming a Megami Tensei demon in D2, El Chapulín Colorado appearing in Fortnite, and Crash Bandicoot fighting the Noid. And the winner is El Chapulín Colorado in Fortnite. This was one of the most unexpected crossovers I've ever seen, and it definitely made me want to track down and rewatch more episodes of this beloved Mexican TV program. Which, by the way, I highly recommend. Lots of great slapstick humor. On with the show! When something becomes popular enough, it becomes common to use it as a place of comparison, regardless of what it actually has in common with the thing you're comparing it to. Like saying X is the Dark Souls of Y, or the fact that we still insist on calling an entire genre Metroidvania. At best, you might encourage fans of that thing to check it out, and at worst, you'll get angry people giving you free attention through their righteous indignation. So here I am to present the Gotta Get Those Clicks award for Best Game that got compared to Persona 5. Let me be clear that I am not here to compare these games to Persona 5. I'm just acknowledging that comparisons to Persona have, in some way, been part of the discourse surrounding these titles for better or worse. Our second runner-up is The Caligula Effect 2. When one of the biggest marketing stunts surrounding your series straight up includes the words, "from the writer of Persona," it's hard to ignore those comparisons. I'll admit the first game and its remake never really did a whole lot for me, but I did have a moderate amount of fun with this sequel. Though, funny enough, that whole writer of Persona thing doesn't even really apply to this one. The first runner-up is Blue Reflection Second Light. I'd never even heard of the Blue Reflection series until my buddy, Tark's Gauntlet, go subscribe to him, he's awesome, did a history on its developer, Gust, where he compared the first game to a mix of Persona and Magical Girl. The second game has all of its girls trapped in an empty school surrounded entirely by water, where they're granted the ability to explore worlds called Heartscapes built on the girls' lost memories. Second Light is colorful, vibrant, the right amount of cheesy, and just a little fanservice-y in the right way. Also, the game's use of water is absolutely fantastic. It's like one big wet dream. Wait. And of course, the winner of this award has to go to Shin Megami Tensei 5. It's a pretty fantastic entry in the series that brought a lot of new mechanics and ideas to the franchise. I loved so many of the new demons. I got super sucked into exploring the open areas of Dot, no matter how many times I found myself asking, how the heck do I get up there? I'll confess SMT5 isn't my favorite SMT game. I do think the characters could have been a bit more fleshed out, but it's still one of the most spellbinding, atmospheric, and enjoyably explorative titles I played in 2021. There's no denying that Shin Megami Tensei 5 has plenty of heart. And now, our special musical guest, Paramore! Will not be performing at today's award show. Turns out they wanted money. Oh well, on with the show! Now let's take a moment to talk about murders. I love a good murder mystery story, and it's a genre that I think works incredibly well for video games, as they can usually make me feel clever and accomplished while not taking my horrendous reflexes into question. So our next award is the Kosuke Kendaichi's Floppy Hat Award for Best Japanese Murder Mystery. Our second runner-up is Danganronpa S Ultimate Summer Camp. I definitely have a bit of an odd relationship with the Danganronpa series, but at the end of the day, I can generally say that I at least greatly enjoyed the mysteries and trials the game presents. Ultimate Summer Camp is a super extended version of one of their modes that asks, what if there was a Danganronpa game with no murders? Which, to me, is up there with a Persona game where no one summons a persona. The first runner-up was an absolute breath of fresh air and something I never expected to see. Nintendo announced at one of their directs that the Famicom murder mystery titles, Famicom Detective Club, were getting full-blown remakes, and yes, I'm giving this spot to both The Missing Heir and The Girl Who Stands Behind. They look great, sound great, and left me with a genuine hope that they did well enough to get a brand new third title down the road. Just maybe ease up a bit on the how the heck was I supposed to know to do that puzzles. And not a single person should be surprised that our winner is the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. Getting these games officially stateside is a dream come true. Both games are incredibly well written, have some very interesting new mechanics in the Ace Attorney series, and were just an absolute delight to play through from start to finish. I loved the setting of the more historic courtrooms, and it did things through its storytelling that felt new and fresh in the franchise. If you want an interesting and engaging new take on Ace Attorney, do yourself a favor and don't miss out on this fantastic duology. I maintain my rule that in order for a game to be eligible for when I do these videos, it has to have gotten a release in the given year, and it's the first time I've ever played the game. But a handy little loophole is that I can throw that rule out the window entirely if the re-release in question brings something new to the table, which makes it a new experience for me. So without further ado, here's the Deja Vu Award for Best Game I've Definitely Played Before. The second runner-up goes to Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne HD. I do wish they'd added some more new content to this one, but polished visuals, an updated script, and getting to see Rido again were all nice enough. Also, with this one, there weren't nearly as many instances of me screaming, "Oh, that's bullshit!" The first runner-up is Pokémon Shining Pearl. I'll confess that Gen 4 has always been one of my least favorite generations in terms of its story, region, and especially its new Pokémon. This remake could have been their opportunity to change my mind, but it's just a mostly faithful remake that did little to expand or innovate. Also, Cheryl's stupid Chansey cost me a shiny Budew, and that really made me want to stop playing right then and there. Around the middle of 2021, I released a video on Legend of Mana Remastered, and I was too lazy to rewatch the video to double check my exact wording, but I pretty much ended the video by confirming that this was now my favorite video game of all time. It took everything I already loved about my favorite game, gave it a nice polishing, touched up some dialogue, added a few quality of life upgrades that fixed my biggest complaints with the original title, and left me with a gorgeous visual and audio experience. And if I'm handing out awards to ports, remakes, or remasters, you better believe this game was going to be taking this award and drinking Victory Fruit Punch smugly out of the imaginary trophy I already gave it several months ago. Before I get into our final category, I'd like to take a moment to thank all of my supporters over on Patreon. The quality program you're watching is made possible thanks to their support, and so I reached out to them to ask what their games of the year were. If you want to be involved in future Patreon prize Straime Awards shenanigans and get in on other behind-the-scenes goodies, please consider pledging today. Link is in the description. And the Patreon prize Straime Award for Best Game of 2021 is Persona 5 Strikers. What can I say? My audience and I definitely have similar tastes. On with the show! Sometimes we wait a long time for games. Like, a really long time for games. Sometimes we wait so long for a game that when it's finally here, we're not quite sure what to say, except here's the Oh My God, Finally award for Best Game I've been wanting for over 10 years. Our second runner-up is a game I will admit I have not actually played, even though I bought the game upon release. Neo: The World Ends With You. Despite owning the original title for the Switch, I still haven't gotten around to playing it, and I didn't really want to dive into this one until I eventually play and beat the first one. So I pretty much just popped it in to record this basic stuff. Still, I know how big a deal this game coming out was for the die-hard fans of the original title, and it's hard not to be excited for them to finally get the sequel they've been waiting for. Our first runner-up is No More Heroes 3. A couple years ago, we got a bit of relief from the burns of waiting for No More Heroes in the form of Travis Strikes Again, and while that was a fine enough little side game that added a bit of continuity, finally getting the proper third installment we've wanted since the Wii days just feels great. Oh, how I've missed the wrist cramp from recharging my beam katana. Of all the video games I've been eagerly awaiting, only one did I specifically request time off work to pick up, play, and make an entire video on as soon as possible, because I was just that dang excited for it. And that's New Pokemon Snap. The absolutely breathtaking follow-up to my favorite N64 game and one of my favorite Pokemon titles of all time. I loved New Pokemon Snap, and it honestly could have been at the top of several potential categories this year. And now it's time for the big one, my Game of the Year. The nominees for this category are basically our 10 award winners, and I would say nearly any of them are totally deserving of this top tier award. Now, some of you might be rolling your eyes and saying, you already said Legend of Mana Remastered is your favorite video game of all time, so obviously it's your game of the year. Well, here's the thing. It's not. See, when I give out my Game of the Year award, I'm not always giving it to my favorite game of the year, but the game that most makes me think of that year. Games like Persona 5 and Animal Crossing New Horizons will always remind me of where I was and what life was like the year they came out. So, with that out of the way, our second runner-up for my Game of the Year is The Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. And as for our first runner-up and winner, I'll admit, I've never had this much trouble deciding. Both New Pokémon Snap and Shin Megami Tensei 5 are worthy of taking this title. Pokémon Snap is a game I've wanted for so long and stood out to me as one of my most memorable experiences this year. Shin Megami Tensei 5 is a personal and professional milestone for me, being the first game where I actually got to work with Atlas West to cover it. But there can only be one winner, so the first runner-up is New Pokémon Snap, which means my game of the year is Shin Megami Tensei 5. From the fact that the long wait is finally over, to the fact that it was the first game I ever got directly from Atlas, to it just being a genuinely good title, Shin Megami Tensei 5 will definitely be the title I think of when I think back to 2021, and I'm more than happy to call it my Game of the Year. Alright, and there you have it, the first annual Straime Awards. I was a little nervous trying something new, so please let me know if you'd like to see me continue this idea in the future, or if I should just go back to making more traditional lists. Don't forget to also let me know what some of your favorite games of 2021 were, and I'm looking forward to a wonderful new year with you all. So until next time, take care.